All right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Great to have each and every one of you here with us today. Today is March 8th, 2022. This is episode 146, and today we are going to take a look at trait 22. So we're going to take a look at trait 22 and quality 2. So we're going to be taking a look at the openness to charm others. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. So of course, before we get started, let's say hello to our panel. Let's start with Anna. Hello, Anna, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. It's also trait 22, quality 2, 2022. Lots of twos.
Yes, exactly. I love it. Well, thank you, Anna. Welcome. And let's go to Linda. Hey, Linda, welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Welcome, everyone. And yeah, I feel really in the mood and open to charm you and inspire you as well. Let's start.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Linda. And thank you for being here. And welcome, Shelley. Hello, Shelley.
Well, hello, everybody. And how do I follow all that charm? I don't know. We'll give it a try. All this naturally permitting openness.
Yes, exactly.
Be fun to explore.
Exactly. Well, great. Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome to everyone who is live in our Zoom room. Welcome to everyone on Facebook, and welcome to everyone who is watching via the recording. So let's jump in, exploring trait 22 in quality 2, openness to charm others. So again, as we're taking a look at March, we've moved into March, and as we took a look at last week, when we're taking a look at March, this is the emotional doubt and openness that leads to crisis. Crisis is right around the corner, returning us to our innocence to gain new opinions of control. So last week, we took a look at family and friendship, and we also took a look at doubt. Today, we're going to take a look at openness. And notice that, again, we are focused here on emotional intelligence. And many of the traits that we're looking at here are going to be in emotional intelligence. So if we take a look at the 22, this is the emotions that condition how receptive others will be to change. So I want you to think about that for a moment. In basically all the craziness that's going on in the world, it can be very emotional, and taking a look at, this is the next step, if you will, to change, and taking a look and listening for how receptive and how open people are to change or not. Next week, it's going to be the Ides of March next week. So we're going to be taking a look at crisis in the 36. So, and the rule of the cycle in which decline is a natural but not enduring state. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 36 in just a moment as well. But again, recognizing that decline is a natural state, but it's not enduring. Right? So the crisis is there for a purpose, for a reason, to make us more aware, to make us more alert, to wake us up. And in a sense, it's waking us up to this transition that we're currently in, moving from 2027, or moving towards 2027, moving from the era of planning into the era of the individual. And that returns us to our innocence, with opinions and control. So again, that's what we're going to be taking a look at this month. And again, right now we're taking a look at openness. And again, as we take a look at March, this is purpose fulfilled through the mind. I always find it really fascinating that we have purpose fulfilled through the mind, and yet at the same time, all of the traits of emotional intelligence, except for one, happen to be in this quarter of purpose fulfilled through the mind. So I think that's quite fascinating. So before we jump in and take a look at the 22, we wanted to also take a look at what the 22 is setting up for us. So again, if you take a look at, it's how receptive others will be to change, right? That's what opens the door, if you will, for change And oftentimes change causes crisis. It causes collective crisis, right? So the 21 is individual, right? It's the era of the individual, in a sense, opening the door. And this is the one strength, the 2212, that is really there to mutate or change the collective. And so here we're listening with the 22 to how open and receptive people are to change. And ultimately, even if people are close to change, sometimes they don't have a choice, right? That's what leads to crisis. And again, it's a collective crisis. It's in the collective stream. So it is a crisis that we share together. So if we take a look at the crisis ahead, so just on March 7th, so we just moved into, what was it, yesterday, or the day before, depending on where you live, we moved into crisis being in what's hidden, and that's going to be there for the next 3 years. I find it fascinating that crisis is in what is hidden, and we've currently been in this era of illusion and delusion. And so, what are mysteries? What are things that have been hidden from us that can potentially be a shock? Shock is part of the era of the individual that may be shocking, that may be coming out, or things that we're not aware of, right? We also have the 49 of Principles, March 2nd. For the rest of the year, we moved into that in Judge and Discipline. And next week on March 13th, so next Sunday, we also move into crisis as the core essence. Now, again, we can think of crisis as a bad thing, right? And in some respects, can be a lot of discomfort in crisis as well, but also crisis provides opportunity. And whenever there is a major change, there tends to be crisis because people don't want to change. People don't want to adapt to the change. So I really feel like at this moment, we have a front row seat to this transition between the era of planning and the era of the individual as we are going through these years moving into 2027. This is today's chart. I think it's quite fascinating with the 4123, right? It's also giving pressure to the 36. Again, the 36 is what's hidden. Again, this is also part of the human experiential way. And we talked about the 41 not too long ago. We talked about the 41 being the beginning of the new year, being the start codon. So I just highlighted it here too, because it's going to be in our values as well as the maturing energy as we take a look at moving into crisis, if you will, as the core essence as well. So it really feels like it's a beginning of something new, and a beginning of something new in what we value, beginning of something new in our maturing energy as well. So I find that all quite fascinating as it shows up. And again, at that point, Sunday, so next Sunday, so before we meet next week, again, we will move into crisis, and we'll also have, what's hidden is already in crisis. So again, just watch what's happening in the world. The more that we can be aware and alert, the more important it is to be aware and alert, because again, you will get exactly what you need. And if you're following your decision-making strategy, right, things will fall into place and you'll learn and see and experience exactly what you need. And there is going to be a lot of crisis, a crisis around the world. It may be crisis in our individual lives, but the key is to always remain grounded and recognize that this is, in a sense, part of the plan, part of the pattern, part of what's happening. And it really is here to awaken us. And I know, Linda, you have this 36 as part of your design as well. We'll talk more about this next week, but I didn't know if there was anything that you would like to add, just as some insights as we, again, especially in this major transition that we happen to be in, so that we can continue to watch it and be alert.
Yes, the 36. Yeah, everything has two sides of the coin. Even if it's really flat, there are always two sides, and that's what I love about this. This is a part of our hero's journey that we go through as a collective. And I feel like we are going to, in this week, we are going to listen to our own emotions and come to new realizations. And then I feel like we are encountering, and I don't know why I'm saying that, but that's just comes natural. We are facing our own crisis in order to create a new beginning. So it can, for us, each and every one of us, I feel like it can be really different, diverse, but I feel like we almost like an initiation to go through resistance, to take a new hurdle, because then we are moving towards progress. If we are not meeting crisis or the hurdles in our lives, we don't grow, we don't learn, life is boring. And I know this because the 36 is in my design, and I have seen that and encountered a lot of crises in my life. But at the end, we learn the most from the things that bug us the most, or that really may feel like, yeah, it's really awful, because it can be. But there is always another side into crisis. There's also the golden nugget that may uncover a new path to progress, a new way as a collective to take a new look at our past, a new look at our experiences as a collective, because it's a human experiential way that we are walking together. So yeah, I feel like please trust the process, and this is something for us as a collective, and wait for the goal to be uncovered.
Yes, beautifully said, Linda. You know, and I often say I believe everything and I believe nothing. One of the things that I would suggest, especially as we transition into the era of the individual, is to question everything. Question yourself, question your beliefs, question your values, question, what's important to you, question the governments, question, big tech, question everything. And again, in looking at the big picture, I think there's shreds a shred of truth in everything, and a shred of truth or lies in everything as well. So really be careful, what you listen to and what you believe, is true, because it could be the exact opposite. So question everything. Like I said, believe everything, believe nothing. And, the more open you are, and we're going to be talking about openness here, to, in a sense, and anything and everything that's possible, the less the shock is going to be, if we can, manage to see all the different sides and not get just stuck in one area or one place. Beautiful. Anything, Shelley or Anna, that you would like to add?
I just was noticing, Karen, as you were talking about people questioning everything, that the 63 is still lit up, and it happens to be in our personal law now. So that makes perfect sense that was coming to you as, make it your personal law to question everything, to doubt everything. And that will be what will help us find what's really true for each of us and for the collective moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great. We talked about that last week with the doubt, right? It's doubting everything. And you can see doubting is part of this whole process. Exactly.
I was thinking about crisis. The collective can be personalized, and then you kind of go into a double crisis. But if you're if you're aware, because this is in emotional intelligence, if you're using your decision-making strategy, whether it's no matter what it is, what's hidden actually starts to reveal itself. And that's where the transformation happens. That's where the opportunities begin to show themselves. It's a normal cycle. And this part of the cycle is part of a bigger cycle. So when it gets really personally intense, you might just sort of take a breather, take a walk, do something pleasing, and you might regain that perspective that whatever you're going through is also a collective process.
Yeah. Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. So I just wanted to bring this up just to kind of be aware in this next week before we meet next week. Also, this Thursday on the 10th, we also, on the 15th, when we meet next week, we're also going to be experiencing the environmental shift of the 4323. So this Thursday, we're going to talk about, and so we can be prepared of the environmental shift that's also going to be happening next week as well. So we're moving from the 14, which is power, skills, and contribution in the 8, we're moving to breakthrough and assimilation in the 2343. So be fascinating to see what that looks like. So I invite you to join us. You can find it in the special programs if you go to the BG5 Business Institute website. All right, so let's dive into today's theme. So today's theme is taking a look at openness. So we have doubt, then leading to openness. This is the grace. This is sharing spirit with others. And it's a quality of behavior best suited in handling mundane and trivial situations. And it's the emotional spirit that conditions how receptive others will be to mutation. So again, is the door open or is the door closed, if you will, to mutation and being aware of those that are open to it and those that are not open to it. This happens to be one of the traits that's in one of the 3 manifesting, it's one of the manifesting channels. So one of the manifesting strengths. And so this can have a big impact, and impacting people at the proper timing is going to be important. So in order to impact people with the proper timing, to see if people are receptive to mutation or not, this is also one of the traits that's connected to listening and being a good listener. So it's a good listener with the grace for handling social situations that are charming and that are attractive. Now, this can be grace. It can also, on the other side, be disgrace. So when your mood changes, however, a dramatically different and sometimes antisocial side of you may emerge. So one of the key things here also with the 22 is making sure that you're in the mood. And if you're not in the mood, it might be time to just spend time by yourself to avoid the disgrace. So this is refining your timing as well. So in refining your timing, you learn to release your truth precisely when society is ready for it. So not only is this an innovator strength, this is also the one innovator strength that's really here to bring change, to bring mutation to the collective, as I mentioned earlier. But what's essential is the timing. So it's about really paying attention to the timing of when you're in the mood and when your audience is open, right? So that you can release the truth at precisely when society is ready for it. And it requires honoring your moods, right? So spending time with your creative muse when you're not in the mood. And when you are in the mood, when the timing is right, that's when you can have the most impact. And this is about empowerment because it is individual. so you can empower and impact others towards change. So you can see that the 22 in many respects opens the door to change. It opens the door to the crisis, and the crisis then brings forth the change that ultimately allows us to return to our innocence. So it's wonderful how, as we're taking a look at all of these traits, the traits in and of themselves tell the story. So I would love to hear from our panel, what you see and what you've experienced with the 22. And if there is anyone who is here live in our Zoom room or also on Facebook, if you'd like to type in, if you're here live in our Zoom room and you have trait 22 or have experience with trait 22 and would love to share it, we would love to have you speak as well. Antonia is saying timing is so important. I can have people look at me with confusion or scorn if the wrong timing when I speak. And Debbie does have the trait 22 in quality 4, unconscious in maturing energy. So I'd love to hear from you too, Debbie, as well. So who would like to start off? Anna, would you like to start us off? And then, and Debbie, if you would like to speak, I'll also promote you as well.
Yes, I have the 22/6 in driving force, unconscious, and in the North Node, future, in my environment, you know, in the environment I live in and that people gravitate to. So this is really strong, and it's been a very subtle thing in my life. And I actually love this trait. But it's taken me a long time, probably till, you know, I was 35, 40 to really understand it, because being a hermit, you know, I wasn't in the mood to socialize a lot, you know. And then when I was, people would be like, oh, cool, you know, wow, I didn't know this side of you, or whatever, you know. And the timing is important, but it's not determined by your timing, by your will. It's determined by your sort of what's around you, because in this listening, you're receiving things, not just listening to people, but you're listening. I guess this is my own influence, but I'm listening to what's in the environment, what's going on, sort of in the quality, the frequency, the energy of what's going on around me. And I could tell if I walked into a group right away, if it just didn't resonate, and so I wouldn't be there. And listening to your muse, that might be more in the realm of just doing a hobby, reading something you enjoy. The grace comes in the joy. And if we segue to the 36 and the stuff that's going on, you know, the huge dramas that are going on right now, the 36 has a lot of movement in it. That's what creates the chaos and change and all of that stuff, the crisis, because most people can't absorb all that energy personally because it's collective. But connecting it to the 22, oh, and the other part is there's a lot of grief in change. Either you change by surprise, something comes at you, or you let go into something, you surrender into something. And grief is a really important part of letting a change happen. And if we don't have rituals or processes or witnesses for our personal growth, even our cultural and global growth, we need that witness to help us move from crisis into grace. And a lot of times when I was working in my earlier career with people that are going through real acute situations psychologically, we would talk about grace. Grace is the other side of grief. It's that place where you go, oh, the world makes sense. I can't understand it. I can't articulate it. I don't know what it is yet. But it's that state where you can be receptive again to being moved, being changed by sometimes not by your own choice.
Right. Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. And Debbie, would you like to share in having the 22 how it shows up for you?
I'd be happy to. So as you were sharing how the crisis opens the door to change, how this showed up for me, personal example, is when I lost my son back in 2008. He died by suicide, and there was something there that I knew that I had to be with it and not run from the feelings, because in my past, I would always run from whatever it is that I didn't want to deal with. And I knew it in my body that I could not run. And it's like there is such depth and wisdom in 22, but in the openness and just being open to what shows up. So mine is unconscious. So I'm not necessarily conscious of it. However, it just comes. And there's things that just come out of my mouth, and because I feel it in my body, and I can feel it uprising from my heart and my chest, and it just comes out through my voice. And I see the beauty in it, and it's really hard for me to describe.
Yeah, well, I think you did a beautiful job of describing it, and that openness to not run away from it, to be able to face it. And in many respects, what's hidden, it just moved into the 36. So it's been in trait 22 for several years. And so in the last few years, it's been, in a sense, opening the door for this major change, for this major transition that we're going through. And just like Debbie was saying, we can face it head on and experience it, or we can run away from it. And I think it's the challenge is to be with that change, as Anna was saying, and Debbie was saying, to be with, in a sense, that grief, if you will, of being able to let go of how things have always been. That's part of what happens with transition. And we're in a major change globally. We're in a major change collectively, where there are things of the way that it used to be that we do have to let go of. And there can be some sadness and sorrow in that as well. And that's okay also.
May I share one more thing?
Yes, please.
This also shows up in my work as you continue to share, and as a chaplain. So I serve individuals on the worst day of their life. And it's for me just to be with what is in the moment, which is deep, deep grief and shock, and in a world of surrealness, but just being able to be present to that and being present to their grief, and knowing that nothing can be done for them except just to hold that space for them as they are in their deep grief. So this is so beautiful, Karen. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Debbie. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to comment on that. That was beautiful, because when you're talking about holding this space, openness is a state. It's a space. It's an energy that does not necessarily have definition in it. And holding that space is also part of listening, in terms of how big a space that is. And if you're holding too big a space, you may not be in the mood anymore, or something is going to tell you this is too big, or this is too small, or this is right or not quite fitting or whatever it is. But this, I love that the space is where the opportunity moves in, occurs. And so openness is not just this sort of flat out no boundaries. Openness is actually a really, I guess I don't know how to articulate it, but it's more of a space that is not confined, that there's things that can occur outside of what you've previously known. It's not a totally ongoing space. It is just the space that needs to happen right then.
Yeah. And just like the individual stream, it happens in a pulse. It may not be there, it may not be there, it may not be there, and then it's there. And just like what you were saying, Anna, it's an openness that's there or not. And sometimes it feels like the openness isn't there until it is there. And it's the same with change. Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. How about Shelley or Linda?
Wow, I do have this in my unconscious core essence, I believe. And so much of what you've both said, Debbie and Anna, has really deepened my understanding of how this is, how I've experienced this in my life. That space you talk about, and I can feel it when it opens up and can sense this. It has kind of like a bubble, a definition of the space we're in together, as how I've experienced it anyway. And it really comes alive when I'm working with people one-on-one. And also because I have it in the 5 as the messenger, the other thing that I really notice with it is, and I don't know if this is where this comes from, and it strikes me that it might be, is that I don't tune into a lot of the news and social stuff going on that everyone around me seems to be buried in. I only hear the things I need to hear. And it doesn't matter what's happening in the world. If I need to know about it, I hear about it. Somebody will bring it to me, or it will find its way to me. And then I know that's for me. And it's been an unconscious way I've always operated. I just have started to become aware of it since doing this kind of work. So I used to, beat myself up. Oh, why don't you pay attention more? Because people would say that, aren't you paying attention? I go, no, I know what I need to know, or I'm brought the information that I need to know about. And that's been, because it's really clear to me then that I need to know about that thing. It arrives and then I work with it. And so that's how I've really experienced this, and that ability to just be there with somebody going through. I experienced this myself in the last few years through my own crisis of burnout at work, where I did just completely surrender to the grief of it all. And that was the only way to get through it. And I inherently, like you mentioned, Debbie, inherently knew that's what I had to do. I had to just completely sink into the experience and allow it to work its way through me. And it took a few years for it to work through, but I inherently knew in my body that that's the only way it was going to work for me. Yeah, so thank you so much, Debbie. Your voice has got such a beautiful tone. You must have the 12 as well, do you? Because it certainly vibrates through as you speak about it.
I do. And what's so fascinating, thank you for sharing that, because it's just affirms. Because of human design and learning and working in BG5, I have started now using my voice in hypnotherapy. And it's just so beautiful of how it's all shown up. So, and even just using the 22 and the 12, I know exactly, just listening to what is needed in the moment. I feel it. And it's just so beautiful.
Very powerful.
Yes, absolutely. I resonate with that too, Debbie, that's often where it comes from. For me, it definitely is an emotional intelligence trait, because you just feel when the timing is right and when the space is correct and when the words just come forward.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, beautiful. Anything, Linda, you would like to add?
Yeah, I'm listening in awe as always to you and also to Debbie. What comes up for me is that trait 22 is about purpose fulfilled through mind. And that is about explaining and conceptualizing what it means to be alive, to be a human being. And for me, this trait, I don't have it. I don't have, it's completely open, also the 12. I feel like this is where we initiate and manifest our individuality, and where we share it also through empowering others. Because just hearing Debbie share with her voice, she can empower others to take the space, to hold the space, to literally open a door, to mutate as well. And I just can imagine how she does that, because in her work as a chaplain, I can understand in the deepest moment of grief, the door seems closed. Life has literally ended. There's no light. But by sharing her own experience, knowing the feeling, being able to transcend and to share the experience in the right timing, feeling if there's openness to a different message, there will be room for spirit again, because for the people that are here still, life goes on and they have to proceed in life with an openness also to life, although there is grief. And I feel like this is also the message in a way for us in the world right now. We are at the threshold of change. It feels like the old doors are being closed. And what we need to do is we have to initiate. It's a manifested strength, a trait. We have to kind of initiate and understand the impact of change. And that when a door closes, there will always be a window that opens. And we are invited, in a sense, to find our own spirit, to hold our own space. And because we are here, because, yeah, that's also the beautiful thing about Ubuntu. I am because we are, as a collective, going through crisis, going through a huge change. Yeah, we need to take that space for ourselves and to get in touch with our body and our emotions, and be open for change and be open for a new path. That's what I feel.
Yep. Beautifully said, Linda. Yeah, this is the first time in going through all of this that really seeing trait 22 as, in a sense, that real opening to change, especially now being at the precipice of moving into the 36 in so many different ways. It really opens us up to really face what the change is that's here and that's upon us. Again, it's that change from the era of planning to the era of the individual. And how much are we willing to let go of what we've been used to in the era of planning to step forward in our uniqueness in the era of the individual? Really beautifully, beautifully said.
I'd
Now
like
it's
to add one more thing.
all right.
This is the 2212 is a manifesting channel, and a lot of people are very busy trying to manifest things in their lives, which is slightly, well, quite different than being a manifestor type. And the processes are different. So a manifestor, an innovator, can initiate something, and it's through this very subtle, open energy, whether you have the 22 exactly or not. But in terms of most people, when they decide, oh, I want this relationship or this car or this house or money or a kid or whatever the stuff is that you're wanting, and people go about trying to manifest something, when you're really busy thinking about it, it's not really the best use of mind. Mind is actually, it's not mental. Mind is actually connected, like several of you already said, to the emotional intelligence. Mind is a level of intelligence, and mind connected to openness, not free fall, but the space of being open, being receptive. That's how things actually manifest. So I just wanted to bring that in because lots of people are very, busy trying to manifest things. It doesn't work with effort. It actually works through grace.
Yeah.
That's where things actually occur. So I just want to mention that.
Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. Right? Things manifest through that openness, having the openness when the timing is right versus pushing and forcing it. Exactly. And it's interesting. And if you take a look at how you get affected when you're connected, this is the shadow of trait 22. So if you don't have 22, and 22 actually happens to be one of my bridging traits. And this is one that has been so elusive for me. I've never really quite got it. And I think I'm finally getting it after how many, more than 10 years I've been trying to figure out what this 22 is all about as one of my bridging traits. So if we take a look at the shadow of the 22, it's lacking the ability to clarify what you are feeling, leading to incorrect timing. So it is, do you struggle to understand or express what you're feeling? I can definitely experience that. Is your timing off when you're trying to express how you feel emotionally? And are you not able to listen for the right timing to bring forth change? So I have the 12 on the other side, but I don't have the 22. The problem is that your timing may be off because you cannot hear who is open to the mutation or not. And you know how to express yourself, but you can't always clarify what you're feeling. And you may struggle in getting how you may struggle, I may struggle to even say it, to struggle to get to how you really feel about a situation as well. So here's the key, especially if it's one of your bridging traits, you are designed to work with others who can help you identify your true feelings and express your mutative impact in the right timing. So Shelley has the 22, Anna has the 22. So both of them are great. And I think Natalie also has the 22. So really having that support to help me get in touch with, okay, what am I feeling? How do I make sense of those feelings? And also to be able to express them, to also listen for the right timing for mutation to take place and to happen. I don't know, Linda, in not having the 22 as well, if there's anything that you recognize. I know you don't have the 12 on the other side, but as 22 shows up as a shadow, I'm just curious if you see that for yourself as well.
Yes, because this is all about literally expressing your emotions. And yeah, that's not what I'm really good at always. So this is where I can be thrown off track, but also can find wisdom. And that's why I love to listen. And that's what I love about the 22 and the 12, to people, because if you have this strength, you can be like a public speaker that in the story filled with emotions really triggers emotions and really gives well, like how do you say that, the kind of atmosphere. And I know one of my clients, he said, it was unconscious, he is also an innovator. He said, well, I don't know if I can do that, but then he was at a wedding and he was giving a best man speech. Well, voila, everyone was in tears and everyone had to laugh. And I said, well, what were you saying about this strength? I can feel envy when people are so natural in, just like Debbie, in having an emotional voice filled with a vibration that you feel in your body, because this is all about awareness. Emotional intelligence is awareness. It's body awareness. It's about feeling deep emotions, what it is to be alive. And we as human beings, as a collective, since we are here on this earth, we share our stories. And I always love to hear stories about people experiencing things, because that's the most empowering thing to witness and to literally feel. I also feel like that's why podcasts and the real, I love documentaries where you can, and also books where you can read a story that's real, the nonfiction. I love that. And I feel like that is what we as a collective also love. And not having this trait, and also not the opposite, can feel like a lack of, not being able to express myself in that way. But that's not for me. I'm here to become wise about what the impact is of when you do have it.
Yeah, beautifully said, Linda. Yes, thank you so much. Beautiful. Yeah, and quickly, let's get to the quality as well. The quality is all about openness, and the two is the charm school. So when we take a look at quality 2, this is the belief that style can mask nature. So the elevation is the possibility to attract others with an emotional style and the ability to successfully delude others and delude ourselves as well. So deluding ourselves and others with our charm without having the actual depth. The challenge is when the style is energized at the expense of awareness. So this is the legitimization of form over substance. So this is the charm school of openness. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to it real briefly. I know we're coming to the end of our time as well, but I brought up this picture because I always thought of this with charm school. Balancing the book on your head and trying to drink tea properly.
Yes, and we were laughing before this, saying that I used to try that when I was a kid and could do it for a little while, but ultimately tossed it aside to just be myself without charm and grace. I guess it's because it's unconscious in me. I didn't realize that I just had it anyways.
And Vicky was saying, sounds a little bit like fake it until you make it. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Beautiful. And also our celebrity is Bobby Fischer. He's a chess player. I thought this was quite fascinating as well. If you take a look at what the life fork theme is, it's rulership. And if you take a look at chess, what are you playing with? You're playing with the kings, the queens, the pawns, right? So the life fork theme is rulership. You have a natural sense of position, and rule with grace for listening. boy, I'm like, it's so funny because trait 22 is activated. I have the 12 on the other side, and it's feeling like it's throwing me completely off. It's really hilarious. So it's interesting to see that as well. It can, in a sense, it can empower you, or if it's like slightly off, because I have it in, well, I have it both in the 1 and the 3. So the 2 is in dissonance. And so it's not quite connected in the right way. So I can find myself not being able to speak as eloquently as you were saying, Linda. So bear with me. So your life work theme, let me start over again. Your life work theme is of rulership. You have a natural sense of position and rule with grace for listening. You are and your greatest responsibility is to educate those within your kingdom, and you're healthiest when you have someone or something to rule. And so again, he was an American chess grandmaster. So I thought that was quite fascinating as well. All right, we are coming up to the end. It's very fascinating. Looking at the 22, especially, like I said, for me, having it as a bridging trait and never quite getting it, and just starting to get it now. So if you want to find out if you have the trait 22 or if you have trait 36 that we're going to take a look at next week, you can download your own chart at the BG5businessinstitute.com website. You can also visit our website and find the trait of the day with BG5 Live. You can also watch past episodes in our free resource library, as well as on YouTube as well. And classes start in May, so we would love to have you join us for any of our upcoming classes. So take a look at our website and you can see everything that is coming up. All right, so let's wrap everything up. So I would love to hear from each of our panelists, including Debbie. I would love to hear from Debbie as well. What are some things that people should pay attention to this week as we are in trait 22? Again, that openness to change, that openness in moving into crisis next week. What are some things that people should be aware of or pay attention to? Would you like to start us off, Debbie?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So what came to mind for me is just listening to the energy of what is needed in the moment. So there's a lot of change and crisis going on, not only in our world, but with a lot of people. And just being open to what is needed for that, and not to change it, but to allow what shows up to be there and not to fix it in that moment, and allow the space. So.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Debbie, for your contribution today. It's really been beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful. How about for you, Anna?
I would say, even though we're talking about openness, sometimes that may seem sort of open-ended, I would say kind of witness your receptivity, because that's where things come in at the right moment. That's where, like Shelley was saying, you hear the right thing. Maybe you're suffering. Maybe you're helping someone that is suffering. You don't have to try to say the right words. And by the way, Karen, I love I love you doing the 22. I'm holding you in grace, that while that experience is going on, because that's what it does. That's what 22 does. You have such an articulate way about you anyway, in all your teaching, all the work you do. So thank you. I don't mind the 3 stumbling around. It's actually, that's exactly what I'm referencing here, is the receptivity is about the high and low part of the wave, to the awkward, to the smooth, to the charming, to the uncharming, to the mood, to the not mood. The receptivity is to the acceptance of whatever that emotional intelligence is, whatever awareness you have to what's going on. Just, hang out with it. Don't judge it. Don't worry about it. Don't work too hard with it. Allow it to be there, because whether you're suffering or exploring or whatever you're doing, that's where the receptivity is. That's where the action, the activity, the aliveness of the 22 lives.
Yeah, beautifully said, Anna. Thank you so much. How about for you, Linda?
Yeah, beautifully shared already. Yeah, embracing possible moods. Maybe you feel more emotional than other times. But also, yeah, just like Anna shared, feeling the receptivity also for connecting with others. You can also may feel a deeper longing for a deeper connection with other people, or you are not in the mood to interact. So that's all part of this energy. And also see your emotions or the emotional frequency that occurs right now as something that you can learn from, because it can open the door to grace and to spirit and to holding your own space. That can prepare you also for crisis, because your emotions will bring you closer to yourself and to your inner knowing and to your individuality. And so don't see it or perceive it as a bad thing. Embrace it and see what's hidden there for you to embrace and to learn from, that you can take along with you on this beautiful path of being alive.
Yeah, beautifully said, Linda. Thank you so much. And Shelley.
Oh my, so much amazing, so many amazing feelings, thoughts, and words to follow. Something that I'm reminded of is when I was going through my own crisis, that one of the first things that came to me was a book called The Pace of Grace. And it was the first thing I read through to try to make sense of what was going on. And I think through that, it was really just giving myself permission to be here now, to be in the flow with what's happening right now, and really embracing what you've all already said, that the openness of the moment or not, that if you're not in the mood, to just be following your moods, just pay attention to your mood and allow your mood to be what it is. I think that's been one of the biggest learnings, learning about BG5 is giving ourselves permission to be ourselves. And if you're not in the mood, to just take time to yourself and to allow yourself to feel through whatever is coming up for you, whether it's feeling very open and friendly or being very closed. And I have to say, I think I felt this shift into the 22. It must have been late last night, early this morning, because it all of a sudden my entire mood opened up and I was online chatting when I haven't been doing that for quite some time. So being aware of those things too, that how much we are affected by the background frequencies, and recognizing just being in the flow with them instead of trying to resist them or control things in any way. Just be in the flow with what's going on. We're all here flowing through the same river, and if you can either float down it or you can scramble to try to swim upstream. So I would say just pay attention to what's really going on right now and flow with it, and it will bring whatever it is we're meant to experience in order for our own individual growth and our own growth as a collective.
Yeah, beautifully said, Shelley. Wow, amazing, amazing discussion. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. Thank you so much, Debbie, as well, for your contribution. And thank you to our panel. Again, remain open when you're in the mood, right? And also be okay if you're not in the mood. And pay attention to your decision-making strategy. Again, that's what's always going to keep you safe as we go through these very, very challenging times. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, and look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks again, everyone. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.